Hi, I'm Jennie Hardin, VP of Brand and Digital Marketing at ezCater, and welcome to ezCater's Lunch Break podcast. Did you know that employees really value having options at work that support their social and emotional well-being? Well, that's what our Future of Workplace Experience report found, among many other insights. And so we just chatted with Micah Remley, CEO of Robin, on our last podcast episode, and it confirmed something important. The whole point of coming to the office now is to connect with people and create that employee engagement. So in a world where hybrid work is the norm, it's those face-to-face moments and relationships that truly set the workplace experience apart and drive employee engagement, leading to happier and more productive employees. So today I've invited ezCater's own VP of People and my colleague Robert Kaskel to talk about how companies are approaching workplace wellness in 2025. With so much technology, remote hybrid work models, and so many other factors to contributing to employees' sense of wellness at work, how can companies create environments that encourage engaged, fulfilled, and productive workers? And that's how we're going to spend our time today. We're going to dig deeper into this exact question, and I'm so excited to have Robert here to lend his expertise and insight. So welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Jenny. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, thanks. So we obviously work really closely day in and day out at ezCater, but for those who are joining us on YouTube or as a listener, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, your role at ezCater, and your background in HR and people?
Sure. Well, I run the people team at Cater, otherwise known as HR. I'm responsible for all the functions in that space: payroll, benefits, compensation, our people business partner function, talent acquisition, HR operations, our HR tech stack, diversity, equity, and inclusion, all those great teams. I've been with ezCater a little over 6 months, so I'm still a newbie. But I have a long career in the people space as a former chief people officer twice over, and I spent many years across a couple of big tech companies you might have heard of, Microsoft and Amazon.
I have heard of them, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I've been at this quite a while, but really thrilled to be at ezCater. Love the people, love the culture, love the work. So it's good to be with you, Jenny.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. So, work-life balance is something that we care deeply about and we talk a lot about at ezCater, your team and you specifically. And so when we surveyed over 1,000 workers, it wasn't surprising, but nearly all of them, 98%, agree that work-life balance is important to their overall happiness at work. Yet, this is where we see a little bit of the chasm. 55% of workers wish their company offered more resources for their well-being. And an astonishing Gen Z is 35% more likely to want those resources, which I think is a pretty astonishing statistic. So with all of this in mind, the fact that work-life balance is super important, but employees aren't feeling like their company is offering enough resources, what are you seeing employees want more of when it comes to well-being, whether it's social, emotional, or physical?
Yeah, I think you just touched on it with that last comment. I think that employees more and more expect their employer to help support their physical, mental, and emotional health. And there's a lot of things I think that companies can do to facilitate those outcomes. The average American worker is at work over 2,000 hours a year, and corporate employees even more so. And when we spend that kind of time at work, we need to have our needs met in a way that enables us to bring our best selves to work every day. So I think that some of the things that some leaders in this space, including ezCater, do to, facilitate the well-being of employees is to provide flexible work arrangements. I mean, the traditional, working model where you're in the office 5 days a week and sitting at your desk and logging FaceTime with the boss are now outdated and increasingly unimportant. I think what employers care about is the delivery of results and the opportunity to do that in a flexible work environment where you work in the place in which you can be most productive and most happy. I think that more and more employers are embracing that, and ezCater as well. We are a remote hybrid work environment where folks can work at home every day of the year or in the office every day of the year or some combination. And, as you touched on, and I use a little bit of a different term other than work-life balance, I refer to work-life harmony instead, because I think that harmony or balance mean different things for different people. I know that, some folks that I work with, balance means, eating dinner with their family every night, or being able to leave work, to go watch their kids' soccer game, or whatever the thing may be. People have different needs, and they have, the opportunity at ezCater to meet those needs and to facilitate some harmony in their life. We care a lot about, providing meaningful benefits to folks that help to facilitate, again, physical, mental, emotional health, whether it be fertility related benefits for our young workforce, many of whom are, starting families, having children. We offer modern health, which gives folks an opportunity to, work on behavioral health issues, either in a one-on-one setting or in a group, and a lot of other things I can touch on. But I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to the employee's need to have authentic connection with the folks that they work with, hopefully to make friends at work and to have, social experiences, to have fun. The data is super clear, both in the workplace study that we did at ezCater, plus, decades worth of research out in the marketplace, that having connection with the folks that you work with, being able to bond, being able to spend social time together has all kinds of positive outcomes related to things like job satisfaction and retention. And there's also not a small number of studies that show that these things, authentic connection, having fun at work, making friends, also helps to facilitate financial outcomes for companies. So all that good stuff.
Yeah. And I think, I really want to dig more into the role that friendships and connection play when it comes to creating that engaged and productive and ultimately really financially beneficial workplace for companies. And so you're right. You said that there's a lot of data that supports this. It's not just our report, although our report did find that 70% of respondents say that work friendships are important. And more than 80% say friendships help them collaborate and be more productive. But like you said, there's plenty of other data sources out there, like KPMG's Workplace Friendship Survey. Similarly, they found that 3 out of 4 employees say that work friends provide positive mental health benefits. And I'm sure if I were to ask you, name a couple of work relationships or friendships that were super impactful to your career, you could probably rattle a few off, because I know I could too. And so I'd love for you to dive a little bit deeper into the importance of workplace friendships for employee happiness and engagement, and ultimately the productivity and the bottom line benefit for companies. And how can companies provide more opportunities to foster those friendships in this, kind of largely hybrid world that we're working in?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of remote work. I find that I can do really good work sitting where I am today in my home office. But what I find for myself and what we hear from employees is that the opportunity to come together face to face fast forwards the ability to have connection and to ultimately make friends. So at ezCater, we do a couple things to facilitate that coming together. We have this thing that we call Easy Together Weeks, where employees have an opportunity to come into our Boston office, where a lot of folks are there 1 week out of the month. Now, you can be there every day out of the month if you want, but we really encourage folks to come in during that Together Week, all expenses paid, come in to not only connect and have fun and build a relationship, but also to do the things that are best done in person. And we call them moments that matter. It might be an important one-on-one. It might be a strategic planning meeting where the face-to-face interaction is important. It might be, you're an engineer and you need some, whiteboarding time with your colleagues in the room. So Easy Together Weeks are a big thing for us. We also have a program that we call Summer Sweetness, and we just did this a couple of weeks ago, where over 600 of our employees gathered in Minneapolis for a little bit of work and a whole lot of fun and connection and building of friendships. So those are a couple things that we do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still benefiting from the energy and the connections from Summer Sweetness. I mean, it was, just a few weeks ago. Hard to imagine it was just a few weeks ago. But when I think about my time there, feeling not only energized by the ability to connect with the folks that I work with face to face on a regular basis, but also the new connections that I've made for folks that, I don't necessarily cross paths with because our functions are super different, or maybe they're new to the company. And in those more organic connections, not only is it helpful, I find, to learn who the human is on the other side of the title or the Zoom screen, but also understand what motivates them. What do they care about, so that we can come together, find those commonalities, and also inevitably understand kind of each other's drivers and motivations, so that we can work towards a more effective and efficient outcome in whatever we're partnering with. And so I definitely am still feeling the benefit from that. You're right. It was just a little bit of work, which was perfect. A little bit of work, a lot of connection. I really value those in-person moments, the moments that matter, as you said. So, I'm certainly a testament, not to sound like a, kind of an ezCater advocate here, but just in the way that I like to operate and the way I like to build relationships and feel engaged at work, that was super impactful for me.
Yeah, and I have found, coming out of Summer Sweetness and participating in these together weeks in the office, builds connection with employees that has kind of an immediate payoff, where I feel more safe and comfortable to be truly honest with folks, to provide feedback, because I know that we have, trust and mutual respect. So I think for that and a number of reasons, it's, there's real tangible benefits. Plus, when you have connection with folks, I find it just makes work more fun. And we spend so much time at work.
So much, 2,000 hours at least, right? Isn't that what you said?
At least. And gosh, wouldn't it be a super drag if you didn't look forward to it because you didn't have people that you enjoy being around? That would suck. So I think that having friends, building connection is the underpinning to so many things that we want our work experience to provide.
100%. There's no company wants their employees to feel those Sunday scaries at the end of the weekend when they look forward to Monday. They look towards to Monday. They think, okay, what's on my calendar? What's on my plate? So we do a lot of ezCater to create these moments that matter and foster these connections. For folks who are out there thinking, okay, we have an opportunity to do more of that wherever I work, in my workplace or at my company. Based on your experience, not only at ezCater, but at all of the wonderful companies you've worked for, what would your advice be to them looking to create more of these moments and drive more connection among employees?
Yeah, well, we know that more and more employees are requiring, their folks to be in the office. And I think what we see a lot in the marketplace are mandates, come into the office or bad things will happen to you. But I think the companies who do this well provide perks, or they provide things that draw folks into the office. Not a mandate, you must be here as a condition of employment, but we would like you to be in the office, or we require you to be in the office, and here's the experience that you will get when you come into the office. And I think it's clear in the data that we've talked a lot about connection and friends, but folks also care a lot about having social time at work as an opportunity to not just talk about the work project that you're working on or the deliverable that's due next week, but to get to know the whole person. I think that getting to know the whole person is an important part of collaborating effectively together. Like, I know some things about you, Jennie. I know about your husband. I know about your daughter. I know that you're about to have your second child. I know where you live. I know some tidbits about things you do for hobbies. And I think you know similar things about me. Like, would we know these things if we didn't, be intentional about having some social time together? I don't think so. And I think that food is a big deal, and food transcends. I think everyone can relate to this. It transcends its basic function of nourishment, and it becomes this powerful catalyst for connection. And I know that is true when I, break bread with my work colleagues, and it's true when I have meals with my family. Food is so important culturally for connection, for getting to know folks, for social interaction. Food and meals together evoke emotion that, sitting around without food or being hungry does not facilitate. And at the end of the day, I think food and meals together are a platform for building relationships. And so I think that things like having meals together, sitting down, having a coffee together, having a happy hour experience has a tangible benefit, not only to how most people, I think, feel connected and feel a level of closeness with their colleagues. But as we've talked about, the data is super clear that it delivers outcomes that even the most hardcore business person who only cares about financial outputs should care about, because food and connection facilitate better financial outcomes for employees. And there's a clear, strong, positive correlation there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, you're so right when it comes to establishing more of those human connections and those social connections and creating those moments. I mean, one of the things that I admire about you is your love of baseball and your commitment to Little League and how you want to give back to your community. And I think that's something that I definitely relate to and connect with you on that level. And then to have that mutual respect and trust leads to more productive relationships and outcomes, like you're saying. And you brought up food. We're going to have to talk about food. It's what we do. I'm not going to pass up that opportunity. And you're right. The data does show that that's a game changer. So over half of those that we surveyed said that eating meals with coworkers improved their workplace experience. 72% said work events centered around food improved their workplace experience. And so, you talked a little bit already about why food is such a powerful force for connection, but I'd love for you, based on your experience or what you've observed or how you've, your personal perspective, why is food such a powerful force for connection? Maybe build on that a little bit more from what you just teed up.
I'll be a little vulnerable here. When I was a difficult, curmudgeon-y, hormonal adolescent or teenager many years ago, my dad did something that in hindsight was really smart that I have done with my own kids as well, which is to not try to engage in some deep conversation, tell me about your test in science or what, how come you went 0 for 4 in your last baseball game, but to say, hey, let's go to breakfast this Saturday, and you pick where we go and we just go and kind of let the experience over a good meal take the conversation wherever it should go. Not some kind of preconceived notion of what needs to be discussed, but you show up, you fuel your body, you fuel your brain, you connect with a person that you care about getting to know more. And I just think it opens folks up. So I really appreciate that my dad did that for me. He's passed away since, but I remember the conversations that we had over meals, particularly when I was a teenager. Those are some of the memories that stick with me most powerfully, as I've gotten older.
I love that. And it's so true. I mean, there is, well, one, I'm notching the parenting advice right there. I'm putting it in my brain to file for when really anytime. I mean, my daughter's 3 now, so it definitely applies in a different way. And some of my favorite moments with her, like when we go out to eat and just having that one-on-one time. So I'm notching the parenting advice. And I think it's so true. When you sit down and you have the common experience of sharing a meal, you're not necessarily in the workplace, you're not necessarily on because you have a camera in front of you and you're on Zoom, or you're looking at the roadmap or the project management sheet or how those outcomes are doing. You can just kind of relax your shoulders a little bit more and have a more, hopefully, open conversation that doesn't feel as kind of official and formal, especially if you're thinking about maybe there's different reporting structures, there are different power dynamics. And so it is an opportunity to bring folks together in a more kind of equitable environment, if you want to think about it that way. Yeah. And so I think that there's a lot of power there, both in the personal world and also in the professional world.
Totally. Could not agree more. And, for someone like me who loves to eat, it's a great way to spend time with folks.
100%. I mean, when the food from our employee meal program shows up, usually at noon on whatever day in the office, I could not move faster up those stairs to go get yesterday it was a really delicious Cajun chicken wrap that I got. So yeah. I'm right there with you. Food's a motivator for me, and I move my fastest when I'm headed to lunch. So
yeah, totally. And it's a motivator for mood too.
Yes.
Right? We all know about what low blood sugar does to people, but when you get to fuel your body, you're also fueling your brain, you're fueling your attitude, you're fueling your mood, you're fueling your happiness level, and all those things are good for life, good for work, all the stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying in terms of these back to office, return to office mandates, and making the workplace a very engaging and motivating place to come. And so, what we talk about at ezCater is the notion of earning the commute. And so earn the commute by providing a free lunch or providing not only food, but food from restaurants you love, local restaurants in your community. And having that to look forward to, I think, is certainly an incentive and an enticement for a lot of people too.
Absolutely. And there's the planned meals, right? Like you and I know that when we're in the office, we ordered whatever we want to eat that day. It arrives and we can sit together and eat. But there's also the serendipitous interaction that happens. Like in the ezCater office, I'm a frequent visitor to the kitchen because I love the flavored water machine,
Yes, Bevy.
She's right, Bevy,
the CEO of Bevy, Kathy Lundberg, is going to be one of our guests. So that's
awesome.
A good teaser.
love Bevy. And of course, you run into people when you're there and you have conversations about life and family. You have also really important conversations about business.
Yeah.
Unplanned. And there's a beauty to that. And there's a value to that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So, we're a food tech company. As the people leader of many tech companies, I definitely want to talk about the role of technology in workplace wellness as well. So there's so many aspects of workplace tech. One, of course, the con side, one of the debates is ping fatigue or feeling just overwhelmed by the amount of technology in our lives. But there's also this ability for technology to bring people together in a virtual environment, in a remote environment, and combat some of the isolation that is, unfortunately pretty common in today's employees, especially among Gen Z. So I'd love your take on how workplace leaders can best use technology to improve workplace wellness and drive some of that social connection in a remote or virtual world.
I don't have any brilliantly wise comments or suggestions on this place. I tend to think about this in a pretty simple way. One of which is that at ezCater, we have a culture of you're on video when you're on Zoom. And I think that helps to, again, build connection. It drives intentional paying attention, to the conversation. And it gives you the opportunity to read facial expression, gives you the opportunity to, draw people out. So I love the fact that it's expected that folks are going to be on video. The other thing that I do on my team, again, super simple, is, I host a Wednesday lunch hour and where anyone can come. It's 45 minutes. You can come for the whole time. You can come for 5 minutes. You can drop in and leave. You have an important meeting that conflicts. You don't come at all. But I find that the attendance to me week in and week out is shockingly high. And why I think that's the case is that I think people crave that connection. We do not talk about work. We just go where the conversation takes us. Like, what did we talk about recently? Like, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Or if you could have any kind of superpower, what would it be? Like, I think in the session yesterday, we talked about what are your summer vacation plans? And it's just fun. There's a lot of smiling. There's a lot of laughing. And that's all good for connection and making friends. So a couple things that I find meaningful.
I mean, sometimes the simplest things are the most impactful and also the ones that we forget about. So yeah. I love it. I mean, yesterday we had our marketing team, full department team meeting, and we always do a team share, something similar. So we do talk about work at those meetings, but we typically open with a team share. And our question yesterday was, what is one food that you don't like that you wish you did like? And it elicited some really heated debate and some really passionate conversation, which mine was sushi. I don't like sushi, but I certainly wish I did because it would make going out to eat with my friends a whole lot easier.
Yeah. One other quick story, Jennie. There's this way of holding meetings and communicating with folks called the thinking environment, created by a professor named Nancy Klein. If anyone is interested, you could go Google that. And one of the things that she encourages folks to do, and I start my staff meetings, my leadership team meetings, where we go in a circle. What is one word or phrase that describes how you're feeling right now? And, people say, oh, I feel excited, I feel nervous, I feel down, I feel overwhelmed. And it gives you a really quick snapshot of where that person is in that moment that I find helps to breed empathy and care for one another. And it gives you a level of insight into where they are and might, encourage you to kind of flex your approach, the words you use, the way in which you go to that person, because you know a little bit about how they're feeling in that moment.
I love that. And I think I'll borrow that for my next weekly stand up with my direct reports as well. But I love that it also starts from a place of empathy and meeting people where they are and inviting that space to be a little bit more open and hopefully vulnerable as well. It can lead to a lot of great outcomes. So, Robert, this was so fun. Thank you so much for being here. I know we could continue talking for a long time, but I'll let you get on to your next meetings. And thank you for being here. I think we are very grateful for you and your insights. And you teed it up nicely. This was unintentional, but you teed it up nicely because in our next episode, we will be talking with the Bevy CEO, Kathy Lewinberg, about work friendships. So picking up on some of this conversation and talking about how they look different today than they did 5 years ago. And we get to dig into some interesting stats from our report and some of the data that Bevy has on return to office that show the growing importance of work besties, especially to Gen Z who are earlier in their career. So stay tuned. Yeah, hopefully you'll tune in, and everybody else here will tune into that episode as well. And just a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast app, and we hope you are, we have links to a number of resources that you can check out, including the report, the Future of the Workplace Experience report that we are referencing today. And if you'd like to connect with me or Robert or get in touch with somebody else at ezCater to discuss how we can help improve your company's workplace experience, that information is all there too. So, Robert, thanks again for joining us.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm going to go have a no bubbles mango, but appreciate it, Jenny. Love the conversation. Thank you so much.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.